think we're live.
Okay, guys.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Introduce yourselves.
This is Judith. I research for the podcast.
Hey, I'm Sarah. I'm the voice that you hear on the Mansion Murder podcast.
And I am Ronnie. I am the videographer and editor.
So we wanted to hop back on Facebook Live. We have a group, as you know. Anybody can join it. Hopefully you have joined. You just search the Mansion Murders Fox 5. It's right there. We've been having ongoing discussions about this 6-part podcast series, and we've had a ton of comments. So today we thought we would read some of those comments. We'd also talk about episode 5, which is titled Chance. And it's all about the chances, or the really tragic opportunities that the Savopoulos family had to notify others that something was wrong.
Or for others to stumble upon whatever was going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, both ways, it seems like.
Yeah, and we can talk about some of those. Judith, as she mentioned, was the researcher on this. We were talking actually about episode 4 and 5 because last week we didn't have a chance to do a Facebook Live. But last week we talked about Jordan Wallace, where he is, his father, Michael Wallace. Can you tell us a little bit about the research that went into that?
Oh, he was hard to track down. Any information at all on him, and even when the story broke, it took forever to get his name. And I think Wagner kind of talks about this at one point, that like finding his information out was very difficult, just in name. And then once we had that, everything in his name was already pulled off social media, so we had really nothing to work with there. And then just kind of searching him using the usual programs and websites we use, like there was just really nothing at all, which
really hard to locate
is kind of surprising because he was how old? Like 20, in his mid to late 20s, right?
Right. He'd be 30 now.
Yeah.
The murders happened 2.5 years ago, so he was about 28, 27 and
so
a half.
So you think 28-year-old has some stuff in their name or some kind of record, you know? And it was just really hard to find much of anything at all. We were able to find some stuff for his dad.
Yeah, that was kind of surprising.
Yeah, and kind of confirm that he was a member still of the PG Police Department. We had to FOIA for that, but
and what is a FOIA, by the way?
Mother either. So it's the Freedom of Information Act. You can request certain documents or files from the government that are. You know, and we're supposed to have access to it because it's the press. You can file
it's public, right?
Yeah, public record. So yeah, we just requested that, and we got that confirmed. You know, we had a phone number, but weren't able to tell if he was still active, which we learned from the FOIA that he is.
Yeah, that was big actually, because
I was surprised
when this story first came out. Yeah, so was I, because when this story first came out, nobody could really confirm at the time if Michael Wallace was still an active officer, and he was. Ronnie did the videos. If you haven't had a chance to go look at the videos, they are on our
Facebook group.
They're on our Facebook group page. And geography, we talk about, plays a big role in this story. And if you haven't listened to the podcast series all the way through, episode 4 will explain more to that. And Jim Trainum, Greg McCreary are 2 retired police authorities, and they really explain that in crimes like this, where the Porsche was torched, all that really means something. So Ronnie, the videos, you've gotten such great feedback about the work you've done on the videos. Tell us what was important to shoot for those.
Not so much anything that I shot, but I think the main video that people should see is the surveillance video that we got from one of the businesses that was outside of the shopping center. That says a lot. I think that's the only video that shows anyone that's ever been involved, and whoever torched the Porsche and then ran away. What else I thought was good about this episode was that we got an eyewitness of someone who saw, they believe Darren Went that was casing, the parking lot, and then that person don't think from seeing the surveillance video, don't think that was the same person. So I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what people think about the surveillance video because it doesn't really look like him to me, Darren. But it is like not very good quality on one hand. You know, he's got a hood on, so yeah, I'm interested to see what people think.
Absolutely, and you can see that in the video. You can see, you'll see pictures of Darren Wen, and then you'll see the video of somebody running away from the burning vehicle, and
with like a bucket,
with a bucket,
right?
Yeah,
and that person looks very slender. Looks very
slender, tall.
Feel free to leave your comments. We wanted to kind of cross over and talk about some of the people that are leaving comments on the Mansion Murder Facebook page.
Yeah,
what about any
comments?
Okay.
None so much.
Okay. Someone just saved 15% on their car insurance. Okay, well no.
It was just wrong live feed.
Tawana says it was just a horrible situation. 19 hours of sheer terror. I'm sure they just felt like if they cooperated, they would live. I think you have a great point.
Yeah.
I think we all feel that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's basically what episode 5.
Yeah.
Episode 5 was all about. Someone, just not to give everything away on episode 5, but this listener, Jenny Duffy, took the time to kind of write some of her thoughts and questions. So we thought we'd go through some of these on episode 5. Jenny says, I have to say, I'm a bit bothered by Nellie Gutierrez. Nellie is the maid who is still alive. She was not there the day that the Savopoulos family was held hostage, and then the second day when they were murdered. The comments in the podcast are disturbing to me. Maybe I missed something or misunderstood, but here are my concerns. 1, Nellie changing her regularly scheduled appointment with the Savopoulos family pretty much at the last minute, figuratively speaking. Did she do this by voicemail, by actually hearing the voicemail or talking with Mr. Savopoulos? When I leave a voicemail changing plans with someone, I usually check my voice text mail to see if they received it. Nellie having a premonition that made her not want to go to the house. Very strange to me. If I sensed something uneasy from someone I worked for 20 years, I think I'd call them. Also, this is the second person from the podcast that has expressed a sense of unease about the fate of the family. Remember the guy who was Mr. Savopoulos' father's former business partner?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Do you guys think that, what is your take on Nellie in her story? I mean, we all spent a lot of time kind of with Nellie, and she did about an hour interview. Do you think there's anything left there?
I think there is. I don't know what
you do?
I don't know what it is, but I think there is maybe something. I don't know.
Really? I would have said, I guess to me, I felt like she was so sincere.
Yeah.
She's so hurt by this.
And that's why she agreed to do the interview.
She does come across as very sincere, but I think her story has fluctuated a bit, and I don't know if that's because it's been lost in translation. She's been speaking to so many different media outlets, at the time when it all happened, but I don't know. Right? Just like the poster says, I don't know. There's just some that's funny. That's just, I don't know. And it could be nothing. It could be nothing at all. But I do think it is interesting.
I mean, I have to say, I felt like Nellie was super full disclosure.
Yep.
And, we had heard various stories about her before that, she wouldn't speak to us, that she would be difficult to track down. And I didn't find any of that to be true. Did you?
And she was very accommodable to Paul Wagner when he spoke with her at least once or twice. Yeah.
What's anything you want to add for
Nellie?
Yeah.
I think she is like everyone else. Everyone wants answers, and whatever she can do to help, she'd be willing to. I think that's why she agreed to do the interview with us. A lot of people have not spoken to her, outside of
she's been cut off.
Television, but I think she does want answers too. I don't think anything else.
Jenny goes on to say, too, she does not believe, she says to us, what opportunities are you all referring to? Considering this scenario, the perpetrator comes into the house, grabs the child, the mother and or housekeeper are told the child will be hurt if they don't cooperate. All 3 are basically herded upstairs. The perpetrator tells one of the victims or ties them, and the other 2 victims. They have them tied up. They were unable to escape or take advantage of any of these opportunities. What do you say to that? Because, the opportunities are Domino's came to the house, a pizza was ordered.
Yeah, the texts and calls from Savas going in and out.
Yeah.
I think people are always just kind of like, oh, if I was in that situation, I would try some way. And I think the problem is we don't know, we have no timeline, and we don't seem to have any kind of sense of what happened once the person wasn't there. So I feel like that's where my mind is I don't know at what point they were tied up, what point, you know, he could have come in and just grabbed the child, but was that what actually happened? So I think if we have maybe answers to that, then it would become a little bit more clear. But now it's just so hard. I don't know.
I think his the audio recording that he left Nellie, his voice.
Oh, right. He just seems so calm.
Yeah.
He just seems... I mean, I need to go back and listen to it again,
I think. So who knows what the situation was in the house at that time.
He could have been just trying to put on a calm, you know, demeanor. Or, what was the situation inside? We don't really know yet.
Right.
Which makes it tough.
A lot of people for episode 5. Gary Neusner is a former FBI criminal hostage negotiator. He worked on the Waco siege in the 90s. He has a very decorated history. And he talked about behavior when you're being held hostage, and essentially nothing is normal. But I think that the part that's also leads to more questions is, especially in the United States, very few people are held hostage for long periods of time in their homes. For the most part, the house is cased prior, and then they're robbed when people are not there. You know,
and even when we think about like barricade situations, which we cover here pretty frequently, when someone kind of barricades themselves in the house and has, you know, like a kid or another family member, and they're threatening to harm themselves. I mean, that's usually people. We find out about it right away. Someone's able to call, or there's some sort of something goes on, and law enforcement finds out. So, there's, what happened once the suspect was inside.
Well, and Gary goes on to say, and you should take a listen and then, you know, tell us your own opinions and share them. But Gary goes on to basically say that the other thing that's very strange is in his 20-something years of his career that he has never had a situation where someone being held hostage was texting somebody for a large amount of money, and that didn't raise flags. You know? And again, there's been a lot of talk, but the research that we did, we didn't find anything to back this up, but that there was a lot of talk that in the past Savas had had money drops to his house. We didn't have anyone that confirmed that. You know, nobody knew that to be true.
And that's the funny thing, is that at one point Nellie did say that she
that's the part,
and that's the thing that I think still kind of, it was a lot. I mean, that's what she told the Post, I think, at one point. It was the Post.
That they had frequent money drops. And then she told us that she never saw that.
Never saw it.
People want to know on Facebook right now, on the Facebook Live, you guys can leave your comments. Thank you for doing so. Is anyone else involved in this horrible case is one of the questions. And then people want to know what the update is as far as new information. So anybody want to talk about, you know, of course, we've said from the start, and so have police. I mean, that's one of the reasons we're doing this podcast is from the start, police have said other people were involved. Well, it's 2.5 years later, so why has no one else been arrested? What's going on?
And no real any information either. Like, you know what I mean? There's been no other updates at all about, just surveillance or anything.
So we don't know of anybody else that they have as a suspect or anyone else they're planning to arrest. We take a look at episode 4. We were told by Darren Wentz to former attorneys to look at the arrest warrant. So we do that, and we look at some of the people that were named in that arrest warrant. Jordan Wallace being one, the accountant being one of them.
Sarah, tell me about what's your thought process when you go in to write these podcasts?
It's
like question. That. Like no one ever asks you. Like,
that's a great
what the process is.
What do you think about how you broke down, especially episode 4?
That's a lot. First, I mean, we got a lot of audio and video, and how did you break that down into chunks?
Well, I think it's funny. You know, you don't even. I think. I guess I just do it like trying to answer the biggest unknown questions that people have had and trying to clear up as you guys know, there was so much speculation about this story. And a lot of that, there's not a lot of merit to it. So it's kind of like, how did this story get so out of control?
The BS.
So I try to pick those sound bites. And, you know, we've also kind of, I tried to make it flow in the sense of like all the things that we all wanted to know, right?
What your mind goes to, kind of step by step.
That we had heard about, moments of chance, you know? To an outsider, it's like, oh my God, you know, someone shows up to their home with a pizza. Vera, who passed away, her husband shows up to the door.
Shows up at the door.
You know, they were so close to thwarting this. And I think, just as humans, I think you want to know, like, oh my God.
Such a nice neighborhood. Yeah, you think that if someone saw anything out of the ordinary, which you would think there would be something.
Right.
Yeah.
And I usually write it, I listen, I edit again to try and get as much cohesiveness as possible. But yeah, it's you know, we've all been working the last 9 months on this story, and a lot of editing, a lot of back and forth. We'll kind of wrap it up with this. Is there were many red flags. Do you agree, Sarah? Well, do I agree with the red flags? I'm assuming the red flags you mean, Kelly, you're probably referring to like, I mean, I agree with Gary Newser. I agree with the experts. I refer to the experts in this podcast all the time. Jim Trainum, Greg McCree, these guys have incredible careers. Gary Newser, those guys find some elements of this very unusual. And I think you have to follow that. I think you have to continue to look into that because there's something unusual here.
Yeah, there's something that we're all missing out on.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, look, we don't report even at this moment, or we don't sit here and pretend that we have all the answers. What we do know is that there is something unusual, and if there is somebody else out there that did this to this, you know, innocent family.
All walking around.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has the right to know that.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
What can we expect coming up? You're working on episode 6. I'm working on it. You're doing research. There's a lot of new developments to this. What can we anticipate next week for the final episode?
I don't know. Things are coming together. I'm not sure. You know, we're kind of by the seat of our pants at this point because we've been getting some tips and things like that. So we're trying to, you know, confirm as much information as we can so we can get that out to you guys. If you do have tips, you can email me, Judith, Judith, .Ayers, AYERS, at foxtv.com. Or Sarah.
Yes, absolutely. We've already interviewed a prosecutor, one of the top prosecutors in D.C. and a top defense attorney, because this is set to go to trial now about a year from now, 2018, September, less than a year.
It's interesting to hear from both of them, too. They make valid points.
What are you working on video-wise, and tell people where they can see the past videos?
All of them are on our Facebook group, so everyone, if you have not joined, please join that.
Yes, we're all in there.
So we do post those pretty much either the day before or the day of when the episodes drop. They're on YouTube. They are on YouTube. Just to make sure, so you can watch those there as well.
We also have some information about one of Darren Went's attorneys, former attorneys, who's having some legal issues of his own. And we also have some information, new information on Darrell Went, Darren Went's brother, who was with him the night that he was apprehended. So we will tell you that, and we'll see you next week for episode 6.
Final episode.
If you do have any information, if you knew the family, if you can shed any light that you think would be helpful, please reach out to Judith.
Or otherwise.
Yes. Thanks, guys, for joining us, and be sure to join the Facebook discussion. It's The Mansion Murders. Search Fox 5. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.